Park Doohan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the cargo list one more time. The spaceport of New Seoul was busy as always, filled with the sounds of ships taking off and landing. The air smelled like engine fuel and the spicy food from nearby food stands. His small cargo ship, the Morning Star, waited behind him, its loading ramp open and ready for today's shipment. Just another normal day, Doohan said to himself, walking around a large metal container. He had been a cargo pilot for 5 years now, and he knew his job well. Pick up the boxes, check the numbers, deliver them safely. Simple work that paid the bills. But today would be different. Doohan just didn't know it yet. As he walked past the third container, he heard something strange, a soft humming sound, like the kind medical equipment makes. Doohan stopped and listened carefully. The sound was coming from a small silver container that wasn't on his list. "That's weird," he muttered, walking closer to the container. It was about the size of a bed, with smooth sides and a control panel on top. Blue lights blinked slowly along its edges. Doohan had seen enough cargo to know this wasn't normal shipping equipment. He looked around the loading area. No one was watching. The dock workers were all busy with other ships, and the security cameras were pointing the other way. Doohan knew he should probably just ignore it and continue with his work, but something felt wrong about this container. Doohan pressed his hand against the metal surface. It was cold, much colder than it should be in the warm afternoon air. He found a small screen on the side and wiped away some dust. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. The screen showed vital signs, a heartbeat, breathing rate, and body temperature. This wasn't just cargo. There was someone inside. "Oh no," Doohan whispered. He had heard stories about human trafficking in the outer colonies, but he had never seen it himself. The thought made him angry. He looked at the container's shipping label and saw it was headed for the outer rim, where laws were weak and slavery was still common. Doohan checked his watch. His ship was scheduled to leave in 30 minutes. He had to make a decision fast. The control panel had a simple design with just a few buttons. One of them was clearly marked as the emergency release. Doohan took a deep breath and pressed it. The container made a soft hissing sound as the top started to open. Cold mist poured out, making Doohan step back. As the mist cleared, he saw what was inside, and his mouth fell open in surprise. A young woman lay inside, sleeping peacefully. She wore strange clothes that seemed to shine with their own light. Her black hair had streaks of silver in it, and her skin was unusually pale. She looked Korean, but there was something different about her that Doohan couldn't quite explain. "Hey," he said softly, reaching out to shake her shoulder. "Are you okay?" The woman didn't move. Doohan checked the vital signs again. She was alive but deeply asleep. Some kind of stasis sleep, he guessed. He had seen it before when rich people traveled long distances through space. The sound of voices made Doohan look up quickly. 2 dock workers were walking toward his ship, checking containers as they came. Doohan made his decision in seconds. He couldn't leave her here. Whatever was happening, it wasn't right. He carefully lifted the woman out of the container. She was surprisingly light, as if the artificial gravity wasn't affecting her the same way it affected everything else. Moving quickly but trying to look casual, Doohan carried her up the ramp into his ship. He found an empty crew cabin and gently laid her on the bed. Then he rushed back outside, closed the empty container, and started loading the rest of his actual cargo. "Everything okay, Captain Park?" one of the dock workers asked as they reached his ship. "Yes, all good," Doohan replied, trying to sound normal. "Just finishing up the loading now." The workers nodded and moved on. Doohan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He finished loading the correct cargo quickly, his hands shaking slightly as he worked. Back in the ship's cockpit, Doohan started the pre-flight checks. His mind was racing. What had he just done? Stealing cargo was a serious crime. Stealing a stasis pod with a person inside. He didn't even want to think about what kind of trouble it could bring. But as he thought about the woman in the crew cabin, he knew he had made the right choice. Whatever was happening, she deserved better than being shipped like cargo to the outer rim. The spaceport control tower's voice came through his radio. "Morningstar, you are cleared for takeoff. Please proceed to launch pad 3. "Copy that, Control," Duhan replied. He guided his ship carefully toward the launch pad. Trying to act like this was just another normal flight. The ship lifted off smoothly, rising through New Seoul's busy skylanes. Duhan watched through the cockpit window as the massive towers of the city fell away below him. Soon, they were high enough to see the curve of Earth, and then they were in space, the blue planet shrinking behind them. Duhan set the autopilot for his planned route, then got up to check on his unexpected passenger. She was still sleeping peacefully in the crew cabin. Now that they were safely away from Earth, he had time to look at her more carefully. Her clothes were like nothing he had ever seen before. The fabric seemed to change color slightly as he moved, and there were patterns that looked like circuits running through it. Around her neck was a thin metal collar with strange symbols on it. "What happened to you?" Duhan wondered aloud. "And what am I going to do when you wake up?" He went back to the cockpit and started checking the news feeds, looking for any reports about missing people or stolen cargo. There was nothing yet, but he knew that wouldn't last. Someone would notice the missing stasis pod soon. Duhan decided to change course. Instead of heading to his planned delivery point, he would go to Station 88, a small trading post where he knew the local security didn't ask too many questions. He could figure out his next move from there. The ship's computer beeped, warning him that someone was trying to call. Duhan checked the ID. It was the shipping company. His heart started beating faster, but he kept his voice calm as he answered. "This is the Morning Star," he said. "Captain Park," a stern voice replied. "We've received a complaint about missing cargo from the New Seoul spaceport. Did you notice anything unusual during loading?" "No, nothing unusual," Duhan lied, hating how easy it was. "All cargo was loaded according to my manifest. Would you like me to send you a copy?" "Please do," the voice said. Duhan transmitted his official cargo list, which of course didn't include the stasis pod. After a few more questions, the call ended. Duhan slumped in his chair, feeling the stress of the situation. What had he gotten himself into? A soft sound behind him made him turn around quickly. The woman from the stasis pod was standing in the cockpit doorway, fully awake. Her eyes were deep brown with flecks of gold in them, and they were filled with fear. She said something in a language Duhan didn't understand, then switched to Korean. "Where am I? Who are you?" "I'm Park Duhan," he said gently, staying in his chair so he wouldn't frighten her. "You're on my cargo ship. I found you in a stasis pod at the spaceport, and, well, I couldn't just leave you there." The woman's eyes widened. She touched the collar around her neck, then looked out the cockpit window at the stars. "You took me from the pod. Do you know what you've done?" "I think I helped you escape from something bad," Duhan said. "Didn't I?" The woman laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "My name is Kim Hae-Nul," she said. "And you just stole the favorite possession of the most dangerous being in this part of the galaxy." Duhan felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" Hae-Nul sat down in the co-pilot's seat, her strange clothes shimmering in the starlight. "I belong to Grand Sovereign Crix," she said. "At least I did until you rescued me. He's going to be very, very angry when he finds out I'm gone." "Who is Grand Sovereign Crix?" Duhan asked, although he had a feeling he didn't want to know the answer. "The ruler of 12 star systems," Hae-Nul said quietly. "The conqueror of worlds. The being who destroyed my colony and took me as his slave because I can do things nobody else can do." She looked at Duhan with sad eyes. "And now he's going to be looking for both of us." Duhan felt like the universe had suddenly become much bigger and much more dangerous. But as he looked at Hae-Nul, saw the pain and fear in her eyes, he knew he still would have rescued her even if he had known the consequences. "Then we better make sure he doesn't find us," Duhan said, turning back to the ship's controls. I'm changing course to somewhere safe, or at least somewhere safer than here. Hanul watched him work for a moment. You're either very brave or very foolish, she said finally. Probably both, Du-Han admitted with a small smile. But I couldn't have left you in that pod. It wasn't right. No, it wasn't right. Hanul agreed. But Crix doesn't care about right and wrong. He only cares about power. And thanks to you, he's just lost something very powerful. The ship's computer beeped again. Another incoming call. Du-Han checked the ID and felt his blood run cold. It wasn't from Earth or the shipping company or anyone he knew. The call was coming from somewhere far out in space. Hanul looked at the screen and went pale. It's starting, she whispered. They're looking for me already. Du-Han took a deep breath and reached for the controls. Whatever was coming, he had made his choice. Now he would have to live with it. Or die with it. Du-Han looked at the blinking light of the incoming call. His hand hovered over the answer button, but Hanul grabbed his wrist. Don't answer it, she said. Her voice was shaking. They can track the signal if you do. Du-Han pulled his hand back and instead pressed the ship's emergency shutdown button. All the lights in the cockpit went dark except for the dim glow of the backup systems. The call signal disappeared. We need to go somewhere they won't look for us, Hanul said. She was looking at the star map on the backup screen. Somewhere busy, with lots of ships and people. It's easier to hide in a crowd. Du-Han nodded. I know a place. Station 88. It's a trading post where people don't ask questions. But first, you need to tell me everything. Who are you really? What did you mean when you said you can do things nobody else can do? Hanul touched the metal collar around her neck. In the dim light, Du-Han could see that the strange symbols on it were actually moving, like tiny rivers of light. I was born on a Korean colony world called New Busan, she began. It was a small planet, but we were happy there. Then Crix's ships came. She paused, taking a deep breath. They attacked without warning. Most people were killed or taken as slaves. But Crix, he noticed something different about me. She held out her hand, and Du-Han gasped. The metal control panel in front of them started to glow with a soft blue light. Small lines of light, like the ones on Hanul's collar, spread across the panel's surface. I can talk to machines, she explained. Not just regular computers, but the really old ones. The ones left behind by the ancient aliens who lived in this part of space long ago. Crix collects anything connected to the ancient ones. When he found out what I could do, he decided to collect me too. The lines of light faded, and the control panel returned to normal. Hanul looked tired. How long were you his prisoner? Du-Han asked carefully. 3 years, Hanul replied. He kept me in that stasis pod whenever he wasn't using my abilities. He was taking me to his main palace when you found me. She looked at Du-Han with serious eyes. He's going to be very angry. No one has ever stolen from him before. Du-Han turned the ship's main systems back on and set a new course. Well, there's a first time for everything, he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. We'll reach Station 88 in about 6 hours. We can. A loud alarm cut him off. Red warning lights flashed across the cockpit. Du-Han checked the radar screen and felt his heart skip a beat. 3 ships had just appeared behind them, moving fast. They found us already? He asked, pushing the engine power higher. Hanul looked at the radar. Those are scout ships, small but fast. They work for Commander Lee Tawan. Who is Commander Lee? A human who betrayed his own people to work for Crix. He hunts down anyone who tries to escape. Hanul's voice was bitter. He's very good at his job. The Morning Star shook as the first warning shot passed close by. Du-Han grabbed the controls and started taking evasive action, making the ship move in an unpredictable pattern. I thought you said they were scout ships, he shouted as another shot went past. They are. Hey Newell said, but To-1 likes his scouts to have big guns. Doohan looked ahead. They were approaching an asteroid field. It was dangerous to fly through it, but it might be their only chance. Hold on tight, he said, turning the ship toward the field of floating rocks. This is going to get rough. Hey Newell grabbed her seat as the ship dove between two huge asteroids. The scout ships followed, firing their weapons. Doohan used every trick he knew, weaving between the rocks, using them as shields against the shots. They're still gaining on us, Hey Newell said, watching the radar. Then she sat up straighter. Wait, there's something else out here. Something old. She closed her eyes and held out her hands. The strange lines of light appeared again, spreading from her fingers across the ship's controls. Doohan felt the morning star respond differently to his commands, becoming faster and more agile. What are you doing? He asked, amazed at how smoothly the ship now moved through the asteroid field. There's ancient technology in these asteroids, Hey Newell explained, her eyes still closed. Mining equipment left behind thousands of years ago. I'm asking it to help us. Suddenly, several asteroids behind them exploded. The scout ships had to scatter to avoid the debris. More explosions followed, creating a chain reaction that filled space with flying rocks and dust. That should slow them down, Hey Newell said, opening her eyes. The lines of light faded, and she slumped in her chair, looking exhausted. Doohan steered them out of the asteroid field and checked their pursuers on the radar. The scout ships were still there, but they had fallen far behind. That was amazing, he said. But are you okay? Using your power seems to tire you out. Newell nodded weakly. The collar makes it harder. Crix used it to control when and how I could use my abilities. Without it, I could do much more. Doohan looked at the collar. Can we take it off? Not without the key, and only Crix has that. Hey Newell touched the collar again. But even with it, I can still help, and we're going to need all the help we can get. A new alarm sounded. Doohan checked the communication system and found hundreds of messages being broadcast on all frequencies. They were all the same. A bounty notice for the return of Kim Hey Newell and the capture or death of her kidnapper. 10 million credits, Doohan read aloud. That's a lot of money. Crix has endless wealth, Hey Newell said, and he never gives up what he thinks belongs to him. She looked at Doohan with worry. You should turn me in. Save yourself. I'm used to being his prisoner, but you don't deserve to die because of me. Doohan shook his head. That's not going to happen. I made a choice when I opened that pod. Besides, he added with a small smile, my mother always taught me that helping others was more important than money. Your mother sounds wise, Hey Newell said softly. She was. Doohan checked their course. We're still about 5 hours from Station 88. You should try to rest. Save your strength. Something tells me we're going to need your abilities again before this is over. Newell nodded and closed her eyes. Soon she was asleep, the events of the day catching up with her. Doohan watched her for a moment, thinking about how much her life had changed in just a few hours, how much both their lives had changed. The radar was clear for now, but Doohan knew it wouldn't last. Somewhere out there, Commander Lee and his forces were regrouping. And behind them, growing angrier by the minute, was an alien tyrant who had just lost his most valuable possession. Doohan looked out at the stars, wondering how many of them now held enemies waiting to catch them. But as he glanced at Hey Newell's peaceful sleeping face, he knew he would make the same choice again. Some things were worth any price. The morning star continued through space, carrying its two fugitives toward what they hoped would be safety. But both of them knew this was just the beginning. The real challenges and the real dangers still lay ahead. In the asteroid field behind them, Commander Lee's scout ships were already picking up their trail again, and in his palace far away, Grand Sovereign Crix was preparing his entire fleet for the hunt. The greatest chase in human history had begun, and nobody, not even Newell, knew how it would end. Station 88 appeared in front of them, like a giant metal spider floating in space. Old cargo containers and broken ships hung around it like a cloud of metal garbage. Perfect for hiding, Duhan thought, as he guided the morning star toward the station. Keep your head down, Duhan told Hainul as they approached the docking bay. I know someone here who might help us, but we can't trust anyone else. Hainul pulled a hood over her head, hiding her silver-streaked hair and the glowing collar. The dock workers barely looked at them as they left their ship. Duhan led the way through narrow corridors, filled with people from 100 different worlds. They reached a small door marked Moon's Parts and Repairs. Duhan knocked 3 times, then twice more. The door opened, revealing a woman in dirty work clothes. She had short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Duhan, she said in surprise. What are you doing here? And who's your friend? Hello, Eugene, Duhan said. We need help. The kind of help only you can give. Moon Eugene looked at them for a long moment, then stepped aside. Come in, quickly. Inside, the shop was cramped but clean. Tools hung on every wall, and parts from a dozen different kinds of ships lay on workbenches. Eugene locked the door and turned to face them. Okay, what kind of trouble are you in? She asked. It must be bad if you came to me. Duhan looked at Hainul, who nodded and lowered her hood. Eugene's eyes went wide when she saw the collar. Oh no, Eugene whispered. That's Crix's mark. You stole from Crix. He stole me, Hainul said quietly. Duhan helped me escape. Eugene sat down heavily in a chair. You're either the bravest or the stupidest person I've ever met, Duhan. Probably both. She rubbed her face with her hands. Tell me everything. They explained what had happened. As they talked, Eugene's expression changed from worried to angry to determined. I used to be a military pilot, Eugene said when they finished. I've seen what Crix does to the worlds he conquers. I've been running a small resistance network, helping people escape from his slave ships when we can. She looked at Hainul's collar. But I've never seen anything like this before. Can you help us remove it? Duhan asked. Eugene studied the collar carefully. Maybe. The technology is strange, but I might be able to. A loud explosion shook the station. Alarms began to sound throughout the corridors. They found us, Hainul said, standing up. Commander Lee's ships must have followed us. Eugene was already moving, pulling weapons from hidden panels in the walls. There's a secret dock on the other side of the station. I keep a ship there for emergencies. We can. The door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a tall man in a black uniform with gold trim. His face was handsome but cruel, and his eyes were as cold as space itself. Hello, Hainul, Commander Lee Ta-1 said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Did you really think you could hide here? 6 armed soldiers filed in behind him, their weapons aimed at Duhan and Eugene. Hainul stepped forward, her hands raised. Let them go, Ta-1, she said. They were just trying to help me. And that was their mistake, Ta-1 replied. The Grand Sovereign wants them both, especially your brave rescuer. He looked at Duhan with amusement. Did you know you're now the most wanted man in 12 star systems? Better than being a traitor to my own people, Duhan shot back. Ta-1's smile disappeared. He raised his hand to strike Duhan, but suddenly stopped. His eyes went wide with surprise. The lights in the room had started to flicker. The tools on the walls began to vibrate. Hainul stood with her eyes closed, lines of light spreading from her collar across her skin. What are you doing? Ta-1 demanded, backing away. This station is old, Hainul said, her voice strange and echoing. Parts of it were built with ancient technology that remembers me. The floor beneath Ta-1's feet suddenly opened up. He and his soldiers fell through with shouts of surprise. The hole closed as quickly as it had opened. They're in a cargo hold 2 levels down, Hainul said, opening her eyes. I've sealed the doors, but it won't hold them for long. She stumbled, and Du-Han caught her before she fell. That was amazing, Yu-Jin said, already gathering supplies. But we need to move. Now. My ship is this way. They ran through the back of the shop into a hidden tunnel. Behind them, they could hear more explosions and the sound of fighting. The resistance is keeping them busy, Yu-Jin explained as they ran. My people know what to do when trouble comes. They reached another dock, smaller and darker than the main one. A sleek black ship waited there, its engines already humming to life. The Shadow Dancer, Yu-Jin said proudly. Fastest ship in the resistance fleet, and completely unregistered. More explosions rocked the station. Warning lights flashed as emergency doors began to close. They're trying to lock down the station, Yu-Jin said as they climbed aboard. We have about 2 minutes to get out of here. Du-Han helped Hae-Nul to a seat while Yu-Jin took the controls. The ship lifted off smoothly and shot toward the dock doors, which were slowly closing. We're not going to make it, Du-Han said, watching the gap get smaller. Yes, we will, Hae-Nul replied. She reached out with both hands, and lines of light spread from her fingers to the door controls. The doors stopped closing. The Shadow Dancer slipped through the gap and into open space. Behind them, Commander Lee's ships were still focused on the main docks, giving them a precious few seconds of surprise. Where are we going? Du-Han asked as Yu-Jin pushed the engines to full power. I know a place, Yu-Jin said. A hidden base where the Resistance plans operations. We can regroup there and figure out how to remove Hae-Nul's collar. Hae-Nul touched the collar thoughtfully. If we can remove it, I might be able to do more than just escape. I could help free others from Crix. One problem at a time, Du-Han said, putting a hand on her shoulder. First we need to get away from multiple ships launching from Station 88, Yu-Jin announced. They've spotted us. The Shadow Dancer shook as the first shots passed nearby. On the radar, they could see Commander Lee's fleet spreading out to surround them. They're trying to herd us toward the gas giant, Yu-Jin said, her hands flying over the controls. If we get caught in its gravity, we'll be trapped. Hae-Nul stood up, though she was still weak from using her power. The gas giant, she said slowly. There might be something there that can help us. Something old. Du-Han looked at her with concern. You're barely standing. Using your power again could hurt you. Sometimes pain is worth it, Hae-Nul replied. She smiled at him. You taught me that when you chose to help me. Yu-Jin looked back at them. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. We got about 30 seconds before those ships get into firing range. Hae-Nul closed her eyes and raised her hands. The lines of light appeared again, spreading across her skin and through the ship's systems. The Shadow Dancer's engines began to glow with a strange blue light. There's an ancient defense platform hidden in the gas giant's rings, she said, her voice distant. It's been sleeping for thousands of years, but it remembers its purpose. It remembers how to protect. The space around them began to change. Points of blue light appeared in the darkness, forming patterns like a giant web. Commander Lee's ships suddenly stopped, caught in the strange light. Then, one by one, their engines shut down. What did you do? Du-Han asked in amazement. The defense platform has a shutdown field, Hae-Nul explained, swaying with exhaustion. It was designed to stop ships without destroying them, to protect without killing. Yu-Jin was already turning their ship away from the disabled fleet. That's our chance. Hang on. The Shadow Dancer shot forward into hyperspace, leaving behind a fleet of powerless ships floating in a web of ancient light. Du-Han caught Hae-Nul as she finally collapsed. Her skin was pale, but she was smiling. We did it, she whispered before falling unconscious. Yes, we did, Du-Han said softly. But something tells me this isn't over yet. Yu-Jin checked their course toward the hidden base. It's not over, she agreed. Crix won't stop hunting us. and now he knows what Haynul can really do. Duhan looked at the sleeping woman in his arms, thinking about everything that had happened since he found that stasis pod in the spaceport. Then we'll have to be ready, he said, because next time, we're not just running away. Next time, we fight back. The Shadow Dancer disappeared into the depths of space, carrying its crew toward an uncertain future. Behind them, Commander Lee's ships hung powerless in the ancient light, a warning to all who would follow. And somewhere in his palace, Grand Sovereign Crix received the news of their escape with cold fury. The hunt was no longer just about retrieving his property. Now it was war. The Resistance base was hidden inside an asteroid, carefully carved out over many years. As the Shadow Dancer landed in the secret hangar, Duhan could see dozens of other ships and hundreds of people moving about. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was an army getting ready for war. Haynul had been sleeping for 2 days, recovering from using her powers. When she finally woke up, Yu-Jin was ready with a plan. "We found something in the old records," Yu-Jin said, showing them a holographic map. "There's an ancient space station near the edge of Crix's territory. The Resistance has been trying to get inside it for years, but the security systems are still active after thousands of years. You think I can help get inside?" Haynul asked, sitting up in her bed. Yu-Jin nodded. "But that's not all. We think this station was some kind of control center. If you can access its systems, you might be able to activate more defense platforms, like the one you used at the gas giant. Enough to fight Crix's whole fleet?" Duhan asked. "Maybe even enough to free every slave in his empire," Yu-Jin replied. Haynul touched her collar. "But we still need to remove this first. Crix can track me through it, and it limits what I can do." "We've been working on that too," Yu-Jin said. She pulled out a small device covered in blinking lights. "This should be able to overload the collar's systems. But," she paused, looking worried, "it might hurt. A lot." "I don't care," Haynul said firmly. "I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of being controlled." Duhan took her hand. "You don't have to do this alone." Haynul squeezed his hand and nodded to Yu-Jin. "Do it." Yu-Jin attached the device to the collar. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Haynul screamed as electricity coursed through the metal. The collar's lights flickered wildly, and the strange symbols began to move faster and faster. Duhan held onto Haynul as she shook with pain. The collar grew hot, smoking slightly. Then, with a sharp crack, it split open and fell away. Haynul gasped as if taking her first real breath in years. The air around her seemed to shimmer, and every electronic device in the room responded to her presence. Screens lit up, machines hummed to life, and lines of light danced across the walls. "That's amazing," Yu-Jin whispered. But their amazement was cut short by alarms blaring throughout the base. A Resistance fighter ran into the room, looking panicked. Crix's fleet just appeared in orbit, he shouted. "Hundreds of ships, and they're led by Commander Lee himself. They must have followed the collar's signal before we destroyed it," Yu-Jin said, already moving toward the door. "We need to evacuate." "No," Haynul said, standing up. Without the collar, she looked different, stronger, more confident. "We're not running anymore. This ends today." She walked to the hangar's main control room, Duhan and Yu-Jin following close behind. Through the base's sensors, they could see Crix's fleet surrounding the asteroid. Leading them was a massive ship shaped like a black pyramid, Commander Lee's flagship. "Attention! Resistance base," Lee's voice came through the communication system. "Surrender Haynul and her rescuer, and the rest of you may live. You have 1 hour to decide." Haynul stepped up to the communications panel. The metal under her fingers began to glow with familiar lines of light, but now they were brighter, stronger. "I have a counteroffer. Todd 1," she said, her voice carrying a new kind of power. "Surrender now or learn why Crix kept me locked away." She closed her eyes, and the entire base responded to her presence. Ancient systems, hidden deep in the asteroid's core, awakened at her call. The resistance fighters watched in awe as their ordinary base transformed around them. The ancestors who built this place left more than just mining equipment. Haynul explained as walls shifted and new rooms appeared. They left weapons, defenses, everything we need. A massive screen appeared, showing a map of nearby space. Dozens of points of light began to appear, spreading outward from their location. More defense platforms, Duhan realized, like the one at the gas giant. All connected, Haynul said, all waiting for someone who could wake them up. Commander Lee's voice came back, less confident now. What are you doing? What is this? I'm doing what I should have done 3 years ago, Haynul replied. I'm fighting back. She raised her hands, and the ancient network responded. Webs of blue light appeared throughout space, surrounding Crix's fleet. But this time, Haynul didn't just shut down their ships. Instead, the light reached into each vessel, finding the slave collars worn by captured crew members. One by one, the collars deactivated and fell away. Thousands of slaves suddenly found themselves free. Chaos erupted among Crix's fleet as freed slaves turned against their captors. Ship after ship fell into confusion as battles broke out on their bridges. No, Commander Lee shouted. This is impossible. This is justice, Haynul said. The lines of light grew brighter, spreading further into space. And it's only the beginning. Through the ancient network, Haynul could reach every corner of Crix's empire. On planet after planet, slave collars failed. Prison camps lost power. Detention centers opened their doors. Millions of people tasted freedom for the first time in years. Duhan watched in amazement as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Everywhere, the story was the same. Slaves rising up, overthrowing their captors, reclaiming their worlds. They're retreating, Yujin announced as Crix's fleet began to break apart. Some ships fled, while others were taken over by their newly freed crews. Only Commander Lee's flagship remained, floating alone in space. This isn't over, Lee's voice came through one last time, shaking with rage. The Grand Sovereign will. The Grand Sovereign is finished, Haynul interrupted. His empire was built on slavery and fear. Without those, he has nothing. She sent one final surge of power through the ancient network. Commander Lee's flagship went dark, its systems completely shut down. Take him, Haynul told the resistance fighters. He can stand trial for his crimes, along with all the others who helped enslave innocent people. As resistance ships moved to capture the powerless flagship, Haynul finally lowered her hands. She looked tired but happy. Are you okay? Duhan asked, supporting her as she sat down. Better than okay, she replied with a smile. For the first time in years, I'm free. Really free. Yujin was looking at the reports still coming in from across space. This is incredible. You haven't just freed yourself. You've started a revolution. Crix's entire empire is falling apart. Good, Haynul said. Now we can help rebuild. Make something better in its place. She looked at Duhan. Something built on kindness and courage, not fear and control. Duhan smiled, remembering the moment in the spaceport when he'd chosen to open that stasis pod. All this happened because of one small choice to help someone in need. Sometimes the smallest choices have the biggest effects, Yujin agreed. But what will you do now, both of you? Haynul stood up, looking out at the stars through the base's viewport. The lines of light still danced around her, but gently now, like old friends. There are more ancient sites out there, she said, more secrets to uncover, and more people who need help. She turned to Duhan. Want to come with me and find them? Try and stop me, Duhan replied with a grin. Later, as the Morning Star and the Shadow Dancer prepared to leave the base together, the story of their adventure was already spreading across the galaxy. The tale of a cargo pilot who made one brave choice, a woman who broke free from her chains, and how together they brought down an empire. But for Duhan and Haynul, It wasn't about becoming legends. It was about helping others, one small choice at a time. Because they had learned that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in ancient technology or massive fleets. It was in the simple decision to do what was right, no matter the cost. The two ships lifted off, heading out into the stars. Behind them, a new future was already beginning. And somewhere in the darkness of space, more adventures waited. But that, as they say, is another story.